Darkness. Complete, suffocating darkness. Marcus Holloway's first sensation was the absence of air, his lungs screaming, his chest burning as if iron bands were crushing his ribcage. He tried to move, but his arms were pinned against something soft, yet unyielding. Satin. The word emerged from somewhere deep in his oxygen-starved brain. Why satin? His fingers clawed forward and hit wood barely inches from his face. Panic detonated through every nerve. He was in a box, a confined space. His heart hammered so violently he could hear it echoing in the cramped chamber. No, not just hear it. Feel it reverberating against the wooden ceiling above him. Where was he? What had happened? Marcus forced himself to think through the terror. The last memory surfaced like a drowning man breaking the surface. Pain. Searing, absolute pain radiating from the center of his chest, spreading like liquid fire through his left arm. He had been at work, hadn't he? The office, Tuesday afternoon. He was reaching for his coffee when the world tilted sideways and the floor rushed up to meet him. Voices, distant, frantic voices. Someone screaming for help. Then nothing. Just this wooden prison, this darkness that tasted like flowers and formaldehyde. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow. He was in a coffin. They thought he was dead. Oh God, they thought he was dead and they had buried him and he was going to die here, truly die here, suffocating in this satin-lined box while... No, wait. He could hear something. Muffled, distant but unmistakable music, organ music, the kind that played at funerals. Marcus's scream tore from his throat, raw and primal, but the sound barely traveled beyond the coffin walls. He pounded on the wood above him, his fists making dull, desperate thuds that surely no one could hear over that goddamn organ music. How long had he been unconscious? Hours? Days? His throat was parched, his muscles weak and trembling, but adrenaline flooded his system with impossible strength. He wasn't buried yet. The music meant people were still there. He could still escape this nightmare. With every ounce of strength, Marcus braced his forearms against the coffin lid and pushed. The wood resisted. Then something gave. A mechanical click, a sudden release of pressure. Light flooded in, blinding and brutal, and Marcus gasped, drinking in air like a man who had been drowning. The organ music stopped abruptly, replaced by something worse. Silence, then screaming. Marcus forced his eyes open despite the stabbing pain of sudden brightness. He was looking up at a vaulted ceiling with exposed wooden beams. A funeral home chapel. He pulled himself up, his arms shaking. His suit, why was he wearing a suit? Wrinkled and damp with cold sweat. As his vision cleared, he saw them, hundreds of faces, all staring at him, all frozen in expressions of absolute horror. In the front row, a woman in black stood with her hand pressed against her mouth, her eyes wide and glassy with shock. Claire, his wife. Relief flooded through him so powerfully, his knees nearly buckled. Claire, he gasped, his voice hoarse and strange. Claire, thank God, I don't know what happened. I woke up and... But Claire wasn't moving toward him. She wasn't crying with relief or rushing to embrace him. She was backing away slowly, her face drained of all color, shaking her head as if trying to deny what she was seeing. Who are you? She whispered, her voice breaking. Who the hell are you? Marcus tried to speak, to explain, but the words died in his throat as he looked around the chapel. Every single person was staring at him, not with joy or relief, but with revulsion and fear, as if he were a monster who had just crawled from the grave. And then he saw it, the photograph on the easel beside the coffin, his own face, smiling back at him from a gold frame. Marcus Holloway, the placard read, beloved husband, father, friend, 1982-2024. The world tilted again, and this time, Marcus knew he wasn't having a heart attack. This was something far worse. The security guards arrived within seconds, their hands rough as they grabbed Marcus's arms and dragged him away from the coffin. He didn't resist. He couldn't. His legs had turned to water, his mind spinning in freefall as Claire's words echoed in his skull. Who are you? At the police station, Marcus sat in a fluorescent-lit interrogation room, his hands trembling on the metal table. Two officers stood across from him, Detective Hayes, a weathered man in his 50s with skeptical eyes, and Officer Martinez, younger, taking notes with mechanical precision. I'm Marcus Holloway, he said for the 7th time, his voice cracking with desperation. I live at 847 Maple Drive. My wife is Claire. My son is Ethan, 16. My daughter is Lily, 14. I work at Carmichael Financial. I don't understand why no one recognizes me. Detective Hayes slid a driver's license across the table. Marcus grabbed it, his heart lurching. The photo showed his face, unmistakably his face, but the name read Daniel Cross. Address, none. The birth date was wrong by 3 years. "That's not me," Marcus whispered, though the face staring back from the plastic card was identical to the one he'd seen in mirrors for 42 years. "That's not my name." "Your fingerprints say otherwise," Hayes replied, tapping a folder. "Daniel Cross, multiple arrests for vagrancy, public intoxication, history of psychiatric episodes. You were reported missing from St. Augustine's mental health facility 6 days ago." "No," the word came out strangled. "No, that's impossible. I've never been to a psychiatric facility. Run the prints again. Check my records. Call my office." "We did call Carmichael Financial," Martinez interrupted gently. "They've never heard of you." The room tilted. Marcus gripped the edge of the table to keep from sliding off the chair. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. "Take me to a mirror," he demanded suddenly. "Let me see myself." Hayes exchanged a glance with Martinez, but nodded. They led him to the bathroom down the hall. Marcus stumbled to the sink, gripping the porcelain with white knuckles, and looked up. His reflection stared back. Same sharp jawline, same scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood fall, same slightly crooked nose broken during college basketball. It was him, undeniably him. "What do you see?" Hayes asked from the doorway. "I see myself. I see Marcus Holloway." Hayes stepped closer, looking at the mirror, then at Marcus. "I see Daniel Cross, a man who needs help." Before Marcus could respond, the door opened and Claire appeared, flanked by Ethan and Lily. His children, his babies. Relief and anguish collided in his chest. "Claire," he breathed, turning toward her. "Please, it's me. Remember when we first met? At the art gallery on Michigan Avenue. You were wearing that blue dress. You said Rothko reminded you of organized chaos. I said you reminded me of beautiful chaos. You laughed and spilled wine on my shirt." Claire's face remained a mask of stone. No recognition flickered in her eyes. No warmth, no memory. "I've never met you before in my life," she said quietly. "Please leave my family alone." She turned to Hayes. "That's not my husband. My husband is being prepared for burial tomorrow." Marcus's legs finally gave out. He collapsed against the sink, his reflection watching him break apart. In the mirror, he was Marcus Holloway, but to everyone else, he was a ghost, wearing a stranger's face. They transferred Marcus to Riverside Psychiatric Facility for a 72-hour evaluation. The white walls and sterile smell reminded him of the hospital, where he'd woken up 3 weeks ago after a minor procedure. Or had that been real? Was any of it real? Dr. Sarah Chen entered his room on the second morning, carrying a tablet and wearing an expression of clinical curiosity rather than pity. That alone made Marcus sit up straighter on the narrow bed. "Mr. Cross," she began. "It's Holloway," Marcus interrupted, his voice hoarse from hours of crying. "My name is Marcus Holloway." Sarah studied him for a long moment, then sat down across from him. "Tell me something only Marcus Holloway would know, something that can't be found online or in public records." Marcus closed his eyes, reaching for memories that felt solid, real, undeniable. "Claire has a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on her left hip. She's self-conscious about it, but I always told her it was beautiful. Ethan broke his arm when he was 7, falling off his bike trying to impress a girl named Ashley Miller. The X-ray showed a hairline fracture the doctor almost missed. Lily has night terrors. She hasn't told Claire, but she comes to my study at 2 in the morning on bad nights, and we play chess until she falls asleep on the couch." He opened his eyes, meeting Sarah's gaze. "Our bank account number is 847-392-6184. The password to my computer is ClaireBear22, because that's what I called her when we were dating. In my desk drawer at home, there's a letter I wrote to Claire last year on our anniversary that I never gave her because I got too emotional. It talks about the miscarriage we had between Ethan and Lily, the baby we named Hope, even though she never took a breath." Sarah's expression had shifted from clinical to troubled. She made notes, her stylus moving quickly across the tablet. "I'll verify what I can," she said carefully. "But Mr. Marcus, you understand how this sounds." "I know how it sounds," Marcus replied, "but I also know I'm not crazy. Something happened to me, something impossible." Over the next 2 days, Sarah returned multiple times, each visit lasting longer than the last. She brought printouts, photographs, documents. Marcus identified people in family photos, knew the dates vacations were taken, could describe the contents of rooms in the house at 847 Maple Drive, down to which cabinet held the good china. "I went to the morgue," Sarah finally admitted on the third day, her voice low. "The body being prepared for burial tomorrow. It has your face, Marcus. But there are discrepancies. A tattoo on the left shoulder blade that you don't have, different dental records, and something else." She pulled out a photograph. Marcus stared at it, his blood turning to ice. It was a photo from last Christmas, the whole family gathered around the tree. But his face was blurred, pixelated, as if the camera couldn't quite capture his features. "There are dozens of photos like this in your home," Sarah continued. "Recent ones from the past 3 months. It's as if something has been erasing you gradually, and nobody noticed until you were gone." Marcus looked up at her, seeing his own terror reflected in her eyes. "What's happening to me?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted, "but I believe you're Marcus Holloway. The question is, if you're here, who's in that coffin and why does everyone remember him instead of you?" The funeral was scheduled for tomorrow at noon. Marcus had less than 24 hours to prove he existed before they buried whatever was wearing his face. Marcus didn't wait for morning. At 3 a.m., he slipped past the night orderly who'd fallen asleep at his desk and walked out of Riverside Psychiatric Facility wearing borrowed scrubs. Sarah had left her car keys on the desk. Accidentally, she would later claim. The drive to 847 Maple Drive took 20 minutes through empty Chicago streets, slick with November rain. Marcus's hands shook on the steering wheel as familiar landmarks passed by. The coffee shop where he bought lattes every Saturday, the park where he taught Ethan to throw a football, the grocery store where he knew every aisle by heart. Everything was exactly as he remembered, but did it remember him? The house was dark when he arrived, except for a single light in the living room. Through the window, Marcus could see Claire sitting on the couch, still wearing her black funeral dress, a glass of wine in her hand. She was crying silently, her shoulders shaking. His heart shattered. He used the spare key hidden under the ceramic frog by the porch. It was still there exactly where he'd placed it 2 years ago. The door opened soundlessly. He stepped into his own home feeling like an intruder. Claire looked up, and for one breathless moment, Marcus thought he saw recognition flash across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by terror. She grabbed her phone. "Don't," Marcus said quickly, raising his hands. "Please, I'm not here to hurt you, I just need you to listen. I'm calling the police. 5 years ago, you had an affair." The word stopped her finger over the screen. Her face drained of color. "It was with Daniel Westbrook from your book club. It lasted 3 months. You ended it the night before our anniversary because you couldn't live with the guilt. You never told me, but I knew. I found the hotel receipt in your coat pocket." Claire's hand trembled violently. How could you possibly?" "Because I'm your husband," Marcus whispered. "I forgave you without you ever having to ask. I loved you enough to carry that secret alone because I knew you were punishing yourself more than I ever could. I never mentioned it, not once in 5 years. The only 2 people who know are you and me." Tears streamed down Claire's face. "This isn't possible. You can't be. Marcus is dead. They showed me the body. I touched his hand. It was cold. It was him." "Was it?" Marcus moved closer, slowly, carefully. "Look at me, Claire. Really look at me. Not at what you think you see. Look at who I am." She stared at him, her eyes searching his face with desperate intensity. For a moment, just a fleeting, fragile moment, something shifted in her expression. Recognition, memory, love. Then her phone rang, shattering the moment like glass. She answered automatically, her eyes never leaving Marcus's face. "Mrs. Holloway?" a voice said on the other end, loud enough for Marcus to hear. "This is Meadowbrook Funeral Home. I'm calling because there's been a situation with your husband's body." Claire's hand tightened on the phone. "What kind of situation?" "The body is gone, Mom. Someone took it from the preparation room. We've called the police, but Mrs. Holloway, this is highly irregular. We've never had anything like this happen before." The phone slipped from Claire's fingers and clattered on the hardwood floor. She stared at Marcus with something beyond fear now, something approaching existential horror. "If you're here," she whispered, "and the body is gone, then what? Who?" The front door burst open. Marcus spun around and felt reality crack down the middle. Standing in the doorway, soaking wet from the rain, wearing the exact same clothes Marcus had died in, was Marcus Holloway. Same face, same scar, same everything. The other Marcus stared back at him with equal shock and confusion. "Who the hell are you?" they both said simultaneously. Claire's scream echoed through the house as the impossible became undeniable. There were 2 Marcus Holloways, and neither one of them understood how that could be true. The 2 Marcus Holloways stood 15 feet apart in the living room, Mirrors reflecting mirrors, reality folding in on itself. Claire had backed against the wall, her hand pressed to her chest, hyperventilating. The other Marcus, the one who had just entered, looked as terrified and confused as the original felt. "This isn't real," the newcomer said, his voice shaking. "This can't be real. I just woke up in the funeral home. I was dead. I remember dying. The pain in my chest, the ambulance, and then nothing until I woke up on that metal table with a tag on my toe. I woke up in the coffin," Marcus said slowly, his mind racing. "During the funeral, I remember the same thing. The heart attack at the office, the pain, then darkness." They stared at each other, and Marcus felt a disturbing sensation, like looking into a mirror that showed not just his reflection, but his thoughts, his memories, his very soul duplicated and standing separate from him. Dr. Sarah Chen arrived 30 minutes later, called by Claire in a moment of desperate rationality. She stood between the two identical men, a digital thermometer in one hand and a pen light in the other, conducting the most bizarre examination of her career. "You're both physically real," she announced, her scientific composure barely masking her shock. "Same height, same weight, same scars, but there are wee differences," she pointed at the newcomer. "You have slightly lower body temperature, and your pupils respond to light a fraction of a second slower." She turned to the original Marcus. "You have faint marks on your fingernails, consistent with clawing at wood from inside a confined space." "What does that mean?" Claire whispered from the corner. "It means something split them," Sarah said carefully, "or created two versions from one source." Over the next hours, Sarah questioned both men separately, comparing their answers. The results were disturbing. Both remembered the same childhood, the same first kiss with Claire, the same births of their children, but the memories diverged slightly in recent months. The newcomer remembered Marcus being more present at home, more attentive. The original Marcus remembered working late more often, feeling distant from his family. "It's like two possible versions of the same life," Sarah concluded, spreading her notes across the dining room table. "Two paths the same person could have taken." She pulled out a hospital file she'd retrieved earlier. 3 weeks ago, both of you underwent an experimental treatment at Chicago Memorial. You were part of a trial for a new neural regeneration therapy after a minor stroke. The treatment was supposed to repair brain damage by creating new neural pathways. "I remember that," both Marcuses said simultaneously, then looked at each other with growing horror. Sarah continued, her voice grave. "The lead researcher, Dr. Emil Kraus, disappeared a week ago. His lab was shut down by the FDA for unauthorized experimentation. I found buried notes suggesting the treatment didn't just create new neural pathways, it created quantum superposition in consciousness, multiple possible states of the same person existing simultaneously until observed and collapsed into one." "You're saying the treatment split my consciousness into two versions?" Original Marcus asked. "And we've been existing in separate realities that are now colliding?" "More accurately, reality couldn't sustain both versions indefinitely. The funeral was the collapse point, the moment when both states tried to occupy the same space." She looked between them grimly. "And now that you're both manifesting in the same reality, physics is trying to correct itself." As if to punctuate her words, Marcus, the original, felt a strange tingling in his fingers. He looked down and gasped. His hands were becoming translucent, like frosted glass. The other Marcus checked his own hands and found the same terrifying phenomenon. "What's happening?" they both asked. "Reality is choosing," Sarah whispered. "One of you will continue to exist, the other will fade. The question is, which one is the real Marcus Holloway? The one who woke up fighting to return to his life, or the one who woke up being returned to it?" Claire stepped forward, tears streaming down her face, looking between the two identical men she loved, or had loved, or might still love. She didn't know anymore. "How do we choose?" she asked brokenly. "How do I choose?" "You don't," Sarah said softly. "Reality will, but it's happening now, look." Both men were fading, becoming more transparent with each passing second, and somewhere in the space between them, a terrible truth was crystallizing. Only one version of Marcus Holloway could survive the night. The question was which one deserved to. The fading accelerated. Marcus could see through his own hands now, could see the carpet beneath his feet as if his body were nothing more than smoke. The other Marcus was experiencing the same dissolution, his edges blurring like a photograph left too long in the sun. "There has to be a way to stop this," Claire pleaded, looking desperately between them. "There has to be something we can do." But Sarah shook her head slowly, her scientific certainty crumbling into helpless horror. The quantum collapse has begun. One consciousness will solidify. The other will cease to exist. I don't know which factors determine the outcome. Marcus, the original, the one who had clawed his way out of a coffin, looked at his duplicate and saw something that stopped his breath. The other Marcus was looking at Claire and the children with an expression of such profound love and peace that it seemed to glow from within him. While Marcus himself felt terror, desperate clinging to existence, fighting against the erasure with every fiber of his being, the other Marcus looked almost accepting, as if he'd already made a choice. I remember being angry, the other Marcus said quietly, still looking at Claire. In those last months before the heart attack, I remember feeling resentful, working late not because I had to, but because I wanted to avoid coming home, feeling trapped, feeling like I'd lost myself in being a husband and father. Original Marcus felt those memories too, buried deep, shameful and true. But I also remember the other choice, the newcomer continued. The version where I stayed, where I chose to be present, where I fell in love with my family all over again instead of running from them. He smiled sadly. I think that's what the treatment did. It didn't split us randomly. It split us at a choice point, the person I was becoming versus the person I could have been. Claire sobbed openly now, and Ethan and Lily had come downstairs standing in their pajamas, staring at two versions of their father slowly disappearing. "Dad?" Lily whispered, and both men's hearts broke at the sound. Original Marcus felt it then, a pull, like gravity, like inevitability. He was fighting so hard to exist, clinging to life with the same desperate strength he'd used to break out of that coffin. But the other Marcus was letting go, surrendering, choosing. "I don't want to disappear," Original Marcus said, his voice breaking. "I don't want to stop existing." "You won't," the other Marcus replied gently. "Don't you see? We're the same person. My memories, my love, my choices, they'll live in you. You'll remember both paths. You'll carry both versions forward. That's not the same as existing, isn't it?" The other Marcus turned to Claire one final time. "I love you. I always have. Every version of me in every possible reality loves you. Remember that." His form was almost completely transparent now, barely a shimmer in the air. And as he faded, Original Marcus felt something impossible. Memories that weren't quite his own flooding into his consciousness. Moments of laughter around the dinner table. Ethan's basketball games where he'd been present, cheering instead of checking work emails. Lily's school play where he'd sat in the front row. Quiet evenings with Claire, just talking, reconnecting, choosing each other again and again. The memories of the man he could have been, the man he still could be. The other Marcus smiled once more, and then he was gone, dissolved into nothing, leaving only a faint warmth in the air where he'd stood. Original Marcus solidified instantly, his hands becoming flesh again, his body feeling suddenly overwhelmingly real and present and alive. But he wasn't quite the same Marcus who had woken up in that coffin. He carried two sets of memories now, two paths, two versions of himself merged into one. Claire approached slowly, her eyes searching his face for something she couldn't name. "Marcus?" she whispered. He looked at her, and for the first time since waking up at his own funeral, he felt whole, fractured and reconstructed, but whole. "I'm here," he said. "I'm really here." She reached out and touched his face, and this time, finally, he saw recognition in her eyes. Not because reality had changed, but because he had. He was the Marcus who fought to live, and the Marcus who chose to love, merged into one impossible, broken, beautiful existence. "I remember you," Claire whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I remember both of you." Marcus pulled her close, and over her shoulder he caught his reflection in the hallway mirror. For just a moment, he could have sworn he saw two faces looking back, his own and the ghost of the man he'd absorbed. The man who'd sacrificed existence so that love could survive. He would spend the rest of his life wondering, had he woken up at his own funeral, or had he died there and simply refused to stay dead? But perhaps that was the wrong question. Perhaps the real question was simpler, more profound. Which version of ourselves do we choose to be? And Marcus finally knew his answer.